Caroline.
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Good, good. I would simply say the Clinton budget agreement in 1997, which was reached with a Republican Congress, cut capital gains taxes to fuel economic growth and cut spending. That's the kind of thing we would love to see a repeat with in this divided government. Where I guess we just disagree, honestly, is we just don't, we're not neo-Keynesians. We don't believe that the secret to prosperity is borrowing and spending more money in Washington. I would simply argue, I'm more of a Milton Friedman guy, that current big deficits are simply, we're just deferring tax increases. It's providing more uncertainty in the economy. It's actually propping up interest rates in the future. So we believe we need to get our spending under control, given that the CBO is telling us it is literally getting out of control, and that will help us produce more certainty and keep tax rates low so that the private sector can grow, not the government sector.
Well, the president will be coming out with his budget. He has already called for a 5-year freeze on discretionary spending. That would be the lowest discretionary spending in relation to the economy since the Eisenhower years. He has called for a cut in the defense budget of $78 billion, and he is looking at other areas to responsibly make cuts but make investments for the future to grow our economy. The best way to grow the economy is investing in education, innovation, infrastructure. And we need time, Paul, for the tax cut deal to work, to bring down the unemployment rate, for the measures that Democrats have put in place to help small businesses, the $30 billion loan fund to help grow and hire new employees, the tax credit for hiring unemployed workers, many of the initiatives that we've put in place to help small businesses. And I would say, Paul, Republican economists, even Mark Zandi, Moody's lead economist, who was the economist for
I don't know that he's still considered a Republican economist.
He has, okay, he's not a Republican. He was McCain's economist. When he
was
ran
an
for
advisor to the
president
campaign,
on
but
the
sure, go ahead, you're on a roll.
on the Republican line. But in any event, he is saying 2011 is not the year to cut. You need to be careful with this fragile economy. We need to continue to grow our economy and grow out of this deficit.
Carolyn?
But the president is coming forward with responsible measures to move us forward and cut
Carolyn,
that deficit.
let me get you right there for a second.
And he announced a bipartisan deficit reduction commission that has come out with the proposals that are specific.
Yes.
And I believe the president is doing a very good job. And just remember, when he took office, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month. We are now gaining jobs, not enough, but Democrats will not be satisfied until every American who wants a job can get one.
They're going to give us a wrap here in a second. Hang on a second, Carolyn. Okay, so where I would just, and I don't want to get in that tit for tat with you, we had Zandi in with a hearing going through multiplier effects. We just disagree with his conclusions and his model. The point I would simply say is we don't think borrowing and spending is the way to prosperity. The president's freeze means no savings this year. It's off of a 24% increase in basic domestic discretionary spending. So after spending spigot has gone out the door, he wants to cap spending at that very, very high amount. We want to bring spending back down. Then let's cut spending, then freeze spending so we can actually get some savings. And the other point I would simply make is when we're talking about investment, let's make no bones about it. That means when a politician in Washington says investment, that means more government spending. That is a problem. Investment in our worldview is entrepreneurs, small businesses, risk takers investing their own capital. And so rather than making people send more of their money to Washington, and then we'll let them have some of it back if they engage in behavior we approve of, let them keep their money in the first place in the hands of the private sector, in the hands of the entrepreneur, not government picking and choosers, picking winners and losers and deciding who gets to do what. Let's let the private economy grow so that we can give them the kinds of incentives to do that. That means low, stable tax rates, sound money, and not all of this new spending in Washington, which 40 cents of every dollar is borrowed money. So we just have a difference of opinion on how to proceed on these things, and we really don't think, because the results have been pretty clear, that all of this stimulus spending works. If it worked, we would have had unemployment below 8% like their models predicted, like Zandi's models predicted.
Their models
Unemployment didn't stay below 8% with about $1 trillion in spending. So let's not repeat the same mistake again, is our point.
Congresswoman Maloney, let me ask you this. If you don't think this is the year for cuts, would you be willing to say that we'll commit to cuts next year or the year after?
Oh, absolutely. We are growing out of the Republican deficit and ruined economy. I repeat,
without throwing barbs around, let's look at the situation
left office, he had
now.
a surplus. President Obama inherited a 700,000 job loss each month. We are moving out of it by helping small businesses, a number of proposals to help businesses grow and expand, and we are growing private sector jobs.
But we're also in a situation where we're facing an increasing debt load that we were just talking about before. I'm not sure if you heard a conversation, but when you look at higher interest rates, that's going to increase the amount that we owe at a phenomenal rate, and that is a concern down the road. You mentioned the Budget Deficit Commission and some of the ideas that they came out with. They came out with some pretty draconian ideas in terms of how to get us back to some sort of fiscal responsibility. Would you go along with what that Budget Deficit Commission came out with?
Well, I believe that we need to continue to grow the economy. The president will be coming out with his budget, possibly some of their proposals he will include in his budget. He has called for a freeze on discretionary spending. He has called for a focus on innovation. This is the country that led the space age, invented the internet, and we're falling behind in education. You can't innovate and go forward without research and investment in clean energy and changing for the new world economy to compete and win in the global economy.
But my question was, would you go along? You mentioned that the president himself may go along with some of these ideas from his own Budget Deficit Commission. Would you go along with a lot of those ideas? Well,
we need to look at the whole proposal. Everything is on the table. The president has put everything on the table, and we'll have a fresh, firm debate. But let's look at the record. President Clinton created 22 million jobs. Under Bush 1 and 2, we lost jobs and grew the deficit by trillions.
So, I mean, let's look at the situation that we're in right now and what we can and can't do.
But it's important to learn from the past.
Yes,
and Democratic
but you're talking about some cause and effect that may not necessarily be the case, which is why it gets so confusing and why it's easy to argue on both sides.
Well, if you look at now, President Obama inherited an economy that was shedding 700,000 jobs a month. We are now gaining jobs. Not enough, but we are trending in the right direction. Let's continue moving forward. 1.3 million over the past year. Not enough, and we are going to continue investing in helping businesses grow. We need time to bring down that unemployment rate, to let the tax deal work, to let the programs that Democrats have put in place to foster and help the growth and expansion of businesses, and we are moving in the right direction. But in order to lead in the world economy, we have to invest in our infrastructure and in innovation and education. It's very important for the future of our country.
Carolyn, we're going to wrap it up. We could trade partisan barbs all day, I suppose, if we want to. Republicans good, Democrats bad. You can say the opposite. The point is, we just have a difference of opinion on how to move the economy forward, how to create jobs and prosperity. I would simply argue, coming out of the kind of recession we ought to be growing at a much faster rate. If you look at how we came out of the 70s recession, the 80s recession, which were deep recessions, we were growing at much faster rates than we are right now. And I would simply argue the reason we're not growing out of this recession like we should, historically speaking, is because of government policies, because of our fiscal policy, and arguably our monetary policy. So, look, we should be growing at a tear and creating a lot more jobs. But government is producing so much uncertainty in the economy. And if we think all we need to do is spend more money through stimulus repackaged as investment as the secret to success, then that just simply means we're going to borrow a whole lot more money and we're going to make our debt and deficit problem worse, which means higher taxes in the future.
Obviously, this is a debate we're not going to resolve today.